Northern Ireland's Footballing Greats presents Northern Ireland's all-time 11s.
Northern Ireland's 40-something caps 11. For nearly 80 years, the idea of a player winning 50 international caps for Ireland seemed an impossible dream. There were, with only a few rare exceptions, only 3 international matches per year, against England, Scotland and Wales in the Home Nations series. That would mean a player would need to play every single match for 16+ years, at a time when club commitments often held sway over the requirements of the Irish FA. It was only when Northern Ireland made a standalone entry for the 1958 World Cup, their entries for the 1950 and 1954 tournaments having been made as part of the regular British Championship, that there was an opportunity to play anyone other than the neighbours. The former record and impressive cap totals of Alfie Stanfield and Elisha Scott were quickly surpassed, with Danny Blanchflower, Billy Bingham and Jimmy McIlroy each hitting the 50 mark in a 12-month period from 1961 to 1962. Since then, 44 players have reached the golden mark of 50 caps. But what about those who fell just short? Here we look at the 40-somethings, the men who won between 41 and 49 caps for Northern Ireland, and select an all-time 11. Billy Hamilton, 41 caps, 1978 to 1986. In the summer of 1978, 21-year-old Billy Hamilton joined QPR, having just won his first Northern Ireland cap after a successful year with Linfield. He had a limited impact in a year at Loftus Road, but had more joy on joining Burnley. Despite relegation to the 3rd Division, he was recalled to the international team for the 1980 British Championship. He scored his first international goal in a 1-0 win over Scotland that set Northern Ireland on the road to winning the tournament. While Burnley yo-yoed between the 2nd and 3rd tiers, Hamilton remained a regular selection for Billy Bingham through the 1982 World Cup and another Home Nations title in 1984. He became a big-money signing for Oxford United in 1984, his partnership with John Aldridge firing the O's to the 2nd Division title, but injuries began to blight him during the title run-in. He missed much of the 1985-86 season through injury, including Oxford's Milk Cup success, and only returned to the team for the closing weeks of the season. He did just enough to convince Billy Bingham that he was fit for the World Cup finals in Mexico, where he played a part in all 3 games. He played just twice more for Oxford before retiring from full-time football. At 29, he took the manager's post at Limerick and returned to the playing field, proving he hadn't lost his touch in front of goal, but League of Ireland goals weren't enough to convince Bingham to award one of his most valued players a 42nd cap. Jimmy Nicholson, 41 caps, 1960 to 1971. At 17, Jimmy Nicholson was an established Manchester United first-teamer and Northern Ireland international, earmarked to replace Duncan Edwards and Danny Blanchflower. He fell out of the United first team before he was 20, spending 2 years playing only reserve team football and consequently missed out on a potential 10 caps before getting his career for club and country back on track, with a move to 2nd Division Huddersfield Town in 1964. He remained a regular for Northern Ireland and the Terriers through the 60s, captaining the club to the Division 2 title in 1970. In October 1971, Nicholson scored in a 1-1 European Championships draw with the Soviet Union in Belfast. He was 28, and it was his 41st cap. Injuries limited him to just 5 club appearances that season, as Huddersfield were relegated. Over the next few years he did continue to receive call-ups when fit, but he was unable to add to his cap tally and he dropped down to Division 4 with Bury at the age of 30. Kevin Wilson, 42 caps, 1987 to 1995. By February 1987, Wilson was just shy of his 26th birthday and had spent much of the 80s playing as a winger or striker in the top 2 divisions with Derby County and Ipswich Town. It was only for the 1986-87 season that he became eligible for Northern Ireland, the rules having been broadened out to allow players to turn out for the country of their mother's birth, a similar route that brought Danny Wilson into Billy Bingham's panel. Over the next 8 years, Wilson turned out in 42 out of Northern Ireland's 51 matches, and at 34 was still in good goal-scoring form for Walsall, who he helped to promotion from Division 3 as runners-up in 1994-95. Was he jettisoned too soon? He scored 15 second division goals the following campaign, and he continued to pull on his boots until just shy of his 40th birthday when he was player-manager of Northampton Town. Conor McLaughlin, 43 caps, 2011 to 2021. A regular for Northern Ireland at various age groups, McLaughlin was elevated to the senior squad in 2011, making his debut against Italy at the age of 20. He struggled for game time over the next few years with Preston North End, dropping down to League Two with Fleetwood Town in 2012. He enjoyed a successful 2014, helping Fleetwood to promotion via the playoffs and earning a recall to the Northern Ireland squad after a near 3-year absence. During the 2014 summer tour of South America, he played alongside his younger brother, Ryan. McLaughlin became Michael O'Neill's go-to right-back throughout qualification for Euro 2016, but he found himself dropped after the team was reshuffled after a below-par start to the tournament against Poland. After the Euros, McLaughlin remained a regular in the Northern Ireland panel, but was often on the bench. Injuries began to take their toll, and he retired in 2022 at the age of 30. Connor Washington, 43 caps, 2016 to 2023. A product of non-league football, Washington was 21 when he made his League Two debut for Newport County. He really made his mark with Peterborough United, earning a big money move to QPR and a call-up to the Northern Ireland squad in the build-up to Euro 2016. His bullish play earned him a place on the plane to France, and, when fit, he remained a regular in the panel over the next 7 years. His application and efforts brought him 6 international goals, but that might have been more had he had a bit more composure when in good positions. His club career also took him to Sheffield United, Hearts, Charlton, Rotherham and Derby County, but in recent years he has been blighted by injury and signed for non-league Matlock Town in the summer of 2025, which will almost certainly mark the end of his international career. Derek Dougan, 43 caps, 1958 to 1973. When 20-year-old Derek Dougan travelled to the 1958 World Cup, he was not expected to play. Rather, Peter Docherty was including a young forward who had impressed in his first campaign in the English First Division with Portsmouth, scored a hat-trick in a B international against Romania, and, most tellingly for such a small squad, was versatile as he had actually played a significant number of games at halfback and on the wing during his earlier career with Distillery. When Billy Simpson collected an injury in Sweden, Dougan was selected for the opening match against Czechoslovakia, but Doherty wasn't happy with the youngster's performance, feeling he was still too raw for the big stage. He continued to impress in the following seasons with Blackburn and Aston Villa, and established himself as at international through to his surprise move to Peterborough in 1963. New Northern Ireland boss Bertie Peacock was unwilling to pick a player featuring in the third tier, and his international career went into a hiatus, costing him a potential 15 caps, until he joined Leicester in 1965, and he enjoyed his best club form after joining Wolves in 1967. From 1965 to 1973, he missed just 3 international games and became captain. While his talent and flair were obvious, his goal-scoring form never really transferred to the world stage, and he hadn't found the net in 2 years prior to his final cap. It could be argued that Dougan's Northern Ireland career came to a premature end due to his lack of form, his age, or his involvement in the Shamrock Rovers All-Ireland 11 match against Brazil in July 1973. The Brazilians do count that as a full international, so arguably Dougan actually won 44 caps. Roy Carroll, 45 caps, 1997 to 2017. Never has there been a player with more opportunities to claim more than 50 Northern Ireland caps, but has failed to do so. Roy Carroll's 20-year international career was punctuated by misjudgment and misfortune. His earliest caps were sporadic, being won as a young lower league goalkeeper, but as his stock rose he looked to be establishing himself as Sammy McIlroy's first-choice keeper and brought a move to Manchester United. A couple of high-profile blunders saw him lose his starting spot to Mike Taylor, and he became frustrated and eventually asked Lawrie Sanchez to omit him from squads unless he was guaranteed game time. After missing much of the 2005-06 season through injury, he was offered an opportunity to re-establish himself for Northern Ireland when Taylor was dropped after a poor performance against Iceland, only for injury to force him off 12 minutes into a famous win over Spain. That was his 19th cap, and for a long time looked like it might be his last, as he struggled with injuries and depression and drifted around Europe. Carroll was recalled to the Northern Ireland squad by Michael O'Neill in 2012 after good form with Olympiacos, and while it looked like he may be playing second fiddle to Lee Camp, he soon re-established himself as a starter. He held on to the number 1 jersey until a stomach issue ruled him out of a European qualifier against Romania in 2015, with Northern Ireland well on the way to qualification to Euro 2016. His replacement, Michael McGovern, held on to his place through the remainder of the qualifiers and the finals in France. Although Carroll remained a squad regular past his 40th birthday, he was only able to claim a handful more caps. Steve Lomas, 45 caps, 1994 to 2003. Through the late 80s and early 90s, Manchester City made regular visits to Irish League grounds in search of talented youngsters. Michael Hughes was signed from Carrick, Neil Lennon and Jerry Taggart from Glenavon, and Steve Lomas from Coleraine in 1991. Lomas bided his time in the youth teams and reserves before making his Premier League debut as a 19-year-old in 1993, and he was elevated to the senior Northern Ireland squad by new manager Brian Hamilton just a few months later and remained a regular for the next decade. Usually a combative midfielder, he also played at right-back for club and country but couldn't help City avoid relegation in 1996. He quickly returned to the Premiership when signed by West Ham, and he would captain both the Hammers and Northern Ireland. In the early 2000s he did suffer some injuries that limited his appearances, and West Ham were relegated in 2003. Still, it was a surprise that new Northern Ireland manager Lawrie Sanchez overlooked Lomas while he was playing in the Championship for West Ham, then QPR, looking instead to younger players such as Damian Johnson and Stephen Davis, though in this period the slightly older and less accomplished Danny Sonner did win 6 caps. Lomas did return to the Northern Ireland lineup once more, in the Milk Cup 25th anniversary match against Everton in 2007. There was little opportunity to play himself back into new Northern Ireland boss Nigel Worthington's plans, as Lomas played his final league game for League One Gillingham just a few months later. Warren Feeney, 46 caps, 2002 to 2011. The third generation of the Feeney clan to earn Northern Ireland caps, and Warren Jr.'s cap tally eclipsed that of his father and grandfather, but was still painfully short of the 50-cap mark. First capped by Sammy McIlroy in 2002, as a 21-year-old after good form with Bournemouth, he dropped out of the international squad after a succession of injuries, and Northern Ireland could have used him during the infamous 2002 to 2004 goal drought. He did maintain a decent GPG for Bournemouth, and then under McIlroy at Stockport County, he earned a big money move to Luton in 2005, and a recall to the Northern Ireland panel. Feeney's main role throughout his international career was as backup to David Healy. Indeed, 29 of his 46 caps were from the bench, more substitute appearances than any other Northern Ireland international. His decade-long career as a lower league striker was petering out by the end of his international career, and goals for club and country were a rarity. He combined playing and coaching with several non-league and Irish League clubs over the following years. A fourth generation of the Feeney family, George, is a current youth international. Jimmy Quinn, 46 caps, 1984 to 1995. Already 22 when he arrived in league football with 4th Division Swindon, Quinn really came to the fore on stepping up to the second tier with Blackburn. A goal-scoring Northern Ireland debut against Israel in 1984 was followed by a goal in Romania that was instrumental in qualification for Mexico '86. An injury collected in training ruled him out for the duration of the finals, and thereafter, while he remained a regular in Bingham's squads, he bounced around the lower leagues until into his 30s. He hit the form of his career on joining Reading, and this form transferred to the international stage as he scored 6 of his 12 Northern Ireland goals in his final 12 caps, taking him up to just shy of his 36th birthday. When Quinn topped 20 goals for the third time in his league career with Peterborough in 1998, it can only be speculated as to whether Lawrie McMenemy was tempted to recall the 38-year-old, having had his attempts to call up the likes of Dele Adebola and David Johnson rebuffed. Bailey Peacock Farrell, 48 caps, 2018 to 2024. Of the 44 men to win over 50 caps for Northern Ireland, only 2 have been goalkeepers. This seems odd given that keepers generally enjoy much longer careers than outfield players, and the quality of goalkeepers to have missed out on the milestone adds to the surprise. Elisha Scott, Harry Gregg, Jim Platt, Tommy Wright, Roy Carroll and Michael McGovern. Bailey Peacock Farrell established himself in the Northern Ireland team as a 21-year-old, and although his club career was a bit hit and miss, he seemed well on his way to the magical 50 mark, and was expected to do so during the October 2024 international window. A shoulder injury ruled him out of the games against Belarus and Bulgaria, allowing Pierce Charles to stake a claim to the Northern Ireland #1 jersey. Further, Peacock Farrell has since dropped out of the squad completely, as he struggled for game time with Birmingham through the 2024-25 season. Will he remain stuck on 48 caps? At the age of 28, time is certainly on his side. Dave Clements, 48 caps, 1965 to 1976. At 17, Dave Clements was already shining as a footballer. He'd won an amateur cap, become the first player to score a European goal for Portadown, transferred to Wolverhampton Wanderers, and starred in Northern Ireland's run to the final of the 1963 Little World Cup. Although he didn't make it at Wolves, he joined Coventry City, established himself in the senior Northern Ireland 11, and won promotion to the First Division. From 1965 to 1976, Clements was a regular international and starter in England's top two divisions for Coventry, Sheffield Wednesday and Everton, proving his versatility as a forward, midfielder and fullback. In March 1975, aged just 29, he was appointed player manager of Northern Ireland. He initially continued in the post even after transferring to New York Cosmos in 1976, but it quickly became obvious that managing a team from across the Atlantic was impractical. Bringing his Northern Ireland career to a close on 48 caps and just shy of his 31st birthday, his international career did continue for 3 more matches when he played for Team USA in their Bicentennial Cup matches against Italy, Brazil and England. Pat Rice, 49 caps, 1968 to 1979. Rice already had a couple of Northern Ireland caps by the time he starred in Arsenal's 1971 double-winning team. Throughout the 70s, he retained the number 2 shirt for club and for country, proved his versatility by slotting in across the defence. He played in an impressive 47 of a possible 57 matches from May 1971 to October 1979, with 3 missed matches coming in 1978 as Danny Blanchflower omitted players from FA Cup finalists, Arsenal and Ipswich from the British Championship matches. For the home nations games in May 1980, new Northern Ireland manager Billy Bingham found himself without his players from Nottingham Forest, who were in the European Cup final, and Arsenal, who were contesting the FA Cup and Cup Winners' Cup finals. Without some of their star players, Northern Ireland managed to win the British Championships before embarking on a tour of Australia. While Forest's Martin O'Neill, no doubt aided by the wins of a European Cup win, did join with the squad, the Arsenal trio of Pat Jennings, Sammy Nelson and Pat Rice couldn't face the trip following a brace of final defeats. Whatever the conversations between the Gunners trio and Bingham, it was only Rice whose international career stalled, with him forever stuck on 49 caps while his top-level club career continued for another 4 years with Watford. The closest he came to a recall was his selection in Northern Ireland's provisional 40-man squad for the 1982 World Cup. So which of these players could or should have won more caps? Whether they were ignored for too long at the start of their careers or discarded too early towards the end, blighted by injury or just plain unlucky, the moniker of nearly men shouldn't overshadow their careers. Northern Ireland's 40-something caps 11 lines up as follows. In goals, Bailey Peacock Farrell. A back three of Pat Rice, Conor McLaughlin and Dave Clements. A midfield duo of Steve Lomas and Jimmy Nicholson. And a heavily loaded front five of Kevin Wilson, Jimmy Quinn, Derek Dugan, Connor Washington and Warren Feeney.
Thank you for watching. Please visit the website at nifootball.blogspot.com, follow on X at JCDNIFG, and don't forget to like and share this video here on YouTube. Your comments are very welcome. It would be great to hear your feedback and suggestions for future videos. Please do keep your comments respectful and look out for a new video soon.